Hello, this is Holly McLean, the Mommy Answer Lady, and in this live webcast, we're going to answer the question how to stop toddlers from throwing tantrums. That is a common question, obviously, that I would get, or anybody who's giving advice about parenting might get. So, I have developed a new method that stops them for good. Tantrums are not necessary, something you might not have heard before, but they're not. So we're going to talk about that. All right. So if you've never met me before, I'm Holly McLean, the Mommy Answer Lady, and I'm all about helping moms and dads stop struggling. So struggling is not necessary as you're raising your children, and I want to help you not struggle. So I've got lots of advice and things for you to hear. All right. So I also want to mention I am going to be releasing a new online course, and it's called How to Train Your Toddler to Behave. And it also has with it a free mini course called Establishing an Effective Parental Mindset. And that's going to be available online in the next couple of months. So be sure to subscribe to my channel. You will find out all about that and you'll see when it's available. And also you can go to my website, mommyanswerlady.com, and you can subscribe there and hear more about that as well. All right. Okay. So I want to get right into the content here. All right. On the last live broadcast I did, or I guess it's called live stream I did. My son wants to correct me about that. We talked about not hitting. All right. That was my first live stream, and that was last week. And during that, I mentioned to you when you stop them and you do what you need to do about stopping them from hitting, sometimes they might throw a fit, and a fit being a tantrum. So today we're going to talk about what to do if they do throw a tantrum. All right. So, there's some good news I have for you, parents. If you've been looking online, reading books and whatnot about toddler tantrums, you have been told that that is normal. That's normal behavior for a toddler. I'm going to tell you what, it's not. And that's good news for you. That's good news for you. But I want to talk about the word normal real quick. Normal, there's two different things that normal could be, right? So the normal they're talking about would be a child grows up, right? They grow out of their clothes. That's normal because they're growing and they're getting bigger. And so it's normal for them to grow out of their clothes. Okay, that's normal. And I would agree that that would be normal. Okay. Then there's the normal that is, it's normal because it's accepted in the society. Okay. And that's the normal that they're talking about, actually. So, you can go to some radical countries and honor killings are normal, right? Not good, but normal. Okay. And so I'm saying tantrums are not normal in that they don't just happen like you grow up and you grow out of your clothes. They might be normal because they're accepted in society, and the experts are all saying they're necessary and they're part of growing up, and I'm saying they're not. Okay. Just like you train children to go on the potty, you train them to eat with a knife and fork, you train them for other things, to brush their teeth, you also train them to behave. And that's tricky. It's tricky because you're told many different things. And so I'm going to ask you to recognize that teaching them to behave and training them to behave is part of being a good parent. Okay. And so I know that if you haven't recognized that before, it might be because you've been told by a lot of experts that it's not necessary, that that bad behavior is just going to be expected. And so I'm telling you, it doesn't need to be. So that's good news for you. All right. All right. So let's talk about the two different kinds of tantrums. There is the frustration tantrum, where a child is frustrated, like they're building blocks on the floor, let's say, and they get 3 and then they want to get more on there, but it keeps falling over. So they get frustrated and they stomp on the blocks or they throw them across the floor and they start crying. That's a frustration tantrum. Okay. Not appropriate, but that's a frustration tantrum. And then there's the manipulative tantrum. And that would be where they're trying to manipulate an authority to do what they want. Okay. Yeah, and I think you know what I mean. They want to go outside, you won't let them go outside, so they throw a tantrum or whatnot. Okay, so that's manipulative tantrum. So there's two kinds of tantrums. Now, just like in the hitting episodes, I told you there were several reasons a child might hit, but you give the same response. There's the same consequence to hitting, no matter what the reason is. But the follow up would be different. And it's the same with a tantrum. Okay. No matter what the reason is, you're going to do the same thing, but the follow up may be different. Now, fortunately, if you keep training your child and teaching them not to hit, they won't hit. They'll learn and they won't. Same with tantrums. You teach them not to do it, train them, they won't do it. All right. Believe me, it's true. I know some of you are going, right. It is true. I've had 9 children, just in case you didn't know that. It is true. They don't have to throw tantrums, and they can be trained not to do that. Okay. And you know what? It's better for them. They're going to be happier if they're not throwing tantrums. A child who's throwing tantrums is not happy, right? And you're not happy, and nobody around them's happy. All right. So we're going to talk more about that. Okay. So one of the things that I have said before is that the misbehavior and the consequence need to connect somehow. So, in other words, if a child grabs a toy from another child, the consequence wouldn't be you don't get ice cream after dinner tonight, right? Because that doesn't have anything to do with the toy or grabbing it, right? A proper consequence for that might be that they don't get to play with that toy at all today, or they don't get to play with that person anymore today, or whatnot, whatever you decide might be. But it needs to be connected to the fact that they took the toy away from the other child. That consequence needs to be connected. Okay. And so all the time, anytime that you are doing some kind of consequence for a child, and I believe consequences are training children. You're teaching and training children with consequences. So any consequence that you give needs to be connected to the behavior. All right. So we're going to talk about a consequence for tantrums. So what are they doing during a tantrum? How can we connect that consequence to the behavior? All right. So when they're throwing a tantrum, what are they doing? They are screaming. They are crying. They're making as much noise as they possibly can make. They're also using their body in an inappropriate way to vent their frustrations in an inappropriate way or to manipulate someone else, right? So what they've done is they've lost control of themselves. And you need to teach them to keep control of themselves. And you need to take control until they're able to have it back. Okay, till they're able to handle it. So that's what we're talking about. So the method that I'm going to suggest you use is called the CTM method. What that means is when they start throwing a fit, you cover their mouth. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, really? That's it? Oh, there's a lot more to it. So let's talk about it. Let me talk about the method, okay? So they start to scream, cry, or fuss in an inappropriate way. So we're not talking about when they cry because they fell down and broke their leg or something. We're talking about when they're crying for those reasons. They lost their emotional control or they're trying to manipulate, okay? In those two cases, you're going to put your hand over their mouth. Now, first I want to say when we're talking about this, we're talking about children from the age of being able to pull themselves up in the crib and stand up in the crib. Okay, so they're in the crib and they're at the point developmentally where they can pull themselves up and stand up in the crib. When they're to that point, this method can be started, okay? There's other things to do before that, but we won't talk about that right now. Okay, so from that point until about 4 or 5 years old, this could be used even longer. But generally, if you train them early, you won't have this at all. I mean, you'll do it 2 or 3 times in their whole life, and they'll be done if you do it properly. Okay, and then you won't have tantrums anymore anyway. So it's pretty cool. All right, so let me talk about the method. So the first thing you do, the number one rule, is that you're not angry. Of course, that's going to be true with any kind of consequence you give, right? You don't want to do it in anger. So you want to be calm and patient. That's the number one rule, okay? The number 2 rule that you're going to do is you're going to say only these words. When you are finished, I will let go. That's all you say. You don't have a conversation. You don't say what the experts say. Oh, I know you don't feel good about that cookie being taken away or whatever. You do not do any of those things. All you say is, when you are finished, I will let go. That's all you say. And you say it about every 30 seconds to a minute during the episode. Okay. So they know. All right. So that's the next thing you do. And if you're taking notes, write that down because it's the only phrase you say. Okay. No more conversation. Wait till they're done. Okay. Next is you never inhibit their breathing. Okay. We're not talking in any way that a consequence is inhibiting the breathing in any way. All right. So don't get that misconception. So you're kind of covering their mouth, and let's say you cover their mouth and they can't breathe through their nose because they have a stuffy nose, let's say. Okay. So you're covering their mouth, right? And when you're yelling or screaming, or they are, you're letting air out, right? So you're screaming, you're letting air out, and then you breathe in. Okay. So as they're screaming, you cover their mouth. And then when they're ready to breathe in, you just slightly put your hand up and let that air come in. Okay. So you're never inhibiting their breathing in any way. The only thing you're doing is inhibiting the noise from coming out of their mouth. That's all. Okay. So that's the other thing. And then you want to give them no attention. Okay. Now that might seem weird, but think about it for a moment. You have them sitting next to you. You're not facing them and giving them all your attention because you don't want to give them attention. So you cover their mouth and then you just do whatever. Wait till they're done. And every so often say, when you're finished, I'll let go. And you just keep doing your thing. Okay. Sometimes, for instance, you can hum a tune or you can talk to another child. Let's say you have some other children who you're taking care of or whatever, and you can be holding their mouth and talking to the other child. This child will be like, why aren't they paying attention to my tantrum here? What you're doing is you're not allowing them to misbehave without any kind of inhibiting, but you're also not giving them all this attention. Okay. So you cover their mouth and you just kind of ignore them, except every 30 seconds to a minute or so, you're going to say, when you're finished, I'll let go. That's it. All right. And then what you do is when they're the slightest bit quiet, because they'll kind of stop right in the middle. They'll stop their screaming. As soon as they do, you take your hand away and say, oh, are you finished? Now, the first time you do this, they're not going to be finished. Okay. They're not. And then you just put it right back over and say it again. When you are finished, I will let go. And you just keep going on with whatever until they're done. Okay. And you might have to do that several times. Oh, are you finished? No? Okay. When you're finished, I'll let go. And then you just keep going. Okay. Now, what you're doing by doing that is you're saying, this is not acceptable behavior, right? Those actions are saying, this isn't acceptable behavior. And when you're done and you have control of yourself, then I'll let go. That's all you're doing. Okay. And so you want to repeat that until they're done. Now, I want to tell you to remember that you're not hurting them. Okay. There's no pain involved here. They're uncomfortable, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay that they're uncomfortable because you know what? You don't want them to be comfortable while they're misbehaving because that's not good. You want them to be uncomfortable while they're misbehaving, right? And so this is uncomfortable. If you had somebody covering your mouth and you didn't want them to, that would be uncomfortable. But it's okay. We want them to be uncomfortable when they're misbehaving. Okay? So you're not hurting them and you're not angry and you're not mean. You're just sitting there and waiting for them to gain control of themselves so you can give the control back to them. Okay? All right. So I want to give you a few warnings about when you do this. First, I want to remind you that once you've trained them in this way, if you are consistent, they will stop throwing tantrums altogether. And you know what's kind of cool? This is a week before Thanksgiving. While I'm doing this live cast, I know people are going to watch it later, but this is a week before Thanksgiving. If you've been having trouble with your toddler throwing tantrums, you can, by Thanksgiving, if you're consistent and you do what I'm saying, by Thanksgiving, you can go to your family event and you don't have to worry about this. You can just be consistent and you won't have to worry about tantrums because they're going to be done. Okay. So now if you have any questions about this, be sure you can comment in the comments or you can go to my website, mommyanswerlady.com, and you can get a hold of me there too. That's fine. And ask me any questions that you have about this method. Okay. The other thing I wanted to warn you about, though, is the first time that you do this, first you want to do it at home, of course. You don't want to be out in the store doing it or something. You want to be at home to train your children to behave. Okay, so you're at home and you're training them. The first time you do this, they're going to scream harder and cry louder, okay? Or scream louder and cry harder, whatever it's going to be. They're going to do that because they're not used to you taking control when they're behaving like that. And so they're going to go, hey, I want to take control back. That's what they're going to do. So just prepare yourself for that. And that's okay because you're establishing something with them. You're establishing something that hasn't been established before. And that is, this behavior isn't acceptable. All right. So be prepared for that. Also, there's two factors that are going to tell how long it's going to take to train them in this way. The longer they've behaved badly, the longer this has gone on that they've been able to throw tantrums and you haven't known what to do, the longer it'll take for them to get the idea. Okay. So, and then the other thing is how strong-willed they are. Okay. Some are more compliant and they give up sooner, and then you can give them control back. Others are strong-willed and they don't want to give up. So it takes a long time. So don't be surprised if you have a really strong-willed child and you've let this go for a while and they're used to throwing tantrums without being inhibited. 45 minutes an hour, you're sitting there. Don't get angry. Don't be impatient, and don't give up. Because in the end, it'll work. And you have to have confidence that it'll work. Have confidence. And in the mini course that I'm going to be putting out here in a couple of months, I talk a lot more about this and a lot of other things about how to train your toddler to behave. So I want to encourage you to keep listening to the Mommy Answer Lady, to go to the website and to be ready for that course to come out. Now we're going to talk about the follow-up now. And then we're also going to talk about some experts and what experts are saying about tantrums and why that's a problem. Okay. So now in the follow-up, now you've gone through this method with your child and they've given up. They're done. Now, again, like I said, if they're strong-willed, it might take a while. So if it does take a while, they might be all sweaty and, they've exhausted themselves, crying and screaming. Okay. And so you can say, are you done? And when they say yes, which they will, there's going to be a point where you can say, yes, I'm done. Okay. You can say, okay, well, let's go wash your face. And you wash their face and you make them feel better. Not with cuddling and loving and huggies and all that stuff. You don't do that. No. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you don't do that. Okay. They don't get rewarded for bad behavior. All right. You want to love them and hug them and kiss them and give them all kinds of loving all day long, but not when they're throwing a tantrum and not after they've thrown a tantrum and you haven't finished with the follow-up yet. Okay. So get them all straightened up if they've gone that far with it. Sometimes they do. And then the follow-up is this. If it was a frustration tantrum, then you're going to say this to them. That behavior is not acceptable. Now let's talk about what you were frustrated about. And then you talk about it, whatever it might be. Okay, they're frustrated about something and let them have a conversation with you. And then when they're all done with that conversation, give them a hug. Say, all righty, don't behave like that anymore. And go on. All right? Now, if it's a manipulative, you're going to do it different. So if the reason is manipulative, which you can observe when they're throwing a tantrum what the reason is. Let's say they're being manipulative. Then all you say is, that behavior isn't acceptable. If you do that again, we will cover your mouth again. Okay? That's it. No more conversation. No big deal. No cuddles and loving and all this kind of stuff. Okay? And then you can get them back to doing whatever they're doing and then give them loving and hugging throughout the day and kisses and all that stuff. But they don't get loving and hugging around a tantrum. Okay? No. Because what you do when you do that is you're showing acceptance for their behavior. Okay. Now there's a lot more to training your child to behave that's going to be in that mini course and on these online live videos. So there's a lot more to that, but this is the method and it works wonders. It's wonderful. You can go to the store, you can go out to eat, you can go anywhere you want, and you don't have to worry about your child throwing a tantrum. Okay. Now, there will be a point if you use this method where they might try to test you, and all you have to do is say, I'm going to cover your mouth, and they'll stop. Okay, it's really kind of fun. I've been teaching these moms for a few years, and some of them have sent me pictures of one of them was a little boy on his own. She was at a church service, and she said, "Hey, none of that," and he covered his own mouth, and she took a picture. I thought that was so cute, so precious. Anyway, and then there was another one where one was a sister, an older sister, and she was covering the mouth of her brother who was starting to make noise when he shouldn't. Now, of course, I don't want you to think that I'm talking about children can't make noise. We're not talking about that. We're talking about tantrums, and we're talking about screaming and crying and fussing inappropriately. That's what we're talking about. All right. Okay, so let's see. I wanted to tell you this too. Times not to do this. The times not to do this is, again, if they're crying for a normal reason, not manipulative or frustrating. And you know what? If they fall down and hurt their knee, they could throw a tantrum over that. So that could be inappropriate crying and screaming. And then you could say, no, that's a little too much. But if they fall down and hurt their knee and they cry because it hurts, that's okay. But screaming in frustration and anger over falling down, that's not okay. So you kind of have to discern, what are they doing? Okay. The other time that you never do it is when you're angry. If you're angry, walk away and get control of yourself first. Okay. Those are the two times you do not do it until you've got control of yourself. All right. So let's see. All right. So I wanted to talk to you about this article. Well, it's actually a few little articles. I'm not going to read all the articles, but I wanted to talk to you about these. Last week, when I was live, I did talk to you about the hitting, and I looked up an article, and I told you I was going to talk to you about the article, and I did, and that every week I would kind of look up an article that had to do with it. Something I've noticed that the experts say about tantrums is that you should manipulate the environment around the child rather than teach the child how to stop having a tantrum. Remember, children aren't happy when they're having tantrums, and you're not happy, and no one else is happy. So what you want to do is you want to train them to behave so they will be happy, and you'll be happy, and everyone around them will be happy. So let me give you an example. I looked up avoiding tantrums, and this is a typical thing I found. Now, if you all know of any other parenting person who tells you to teach your child to behave and not to avoid, not to distract or anything else, let me know. I love to collaborate with somebody else like that, but I haven't found anybody. I know there has to be. I just haven't found anybody. Okay, so this is from kidshealth.org. Okay, to prevent tantrums from happening in the first place whenever possible, here are some ideas that may help. Now, this is interesting. Give plenty of positive attention. Get in the habit of catching your child being good. Reward your little one with praise and attention for positive behavior. Yes, I believe you should do that. But I don't think that has anything to do with tantrums. Okay? You should do that because that's good parenting. You shouldn't do that because you're afraid they'll throw a tantrum if you don't say enough nice things. Okay, that's what a lot of these are like. Try to give toddlers some control over little things. Offer minor choices such as, do you want orange juice or apple juice? Do you want to brush your teeth before or after taking a bath? This way, you aren't asking, do you want to brush your teeth now? Which inevitably will be answered no. Again, good parenting. It's nice to give them choices. We talk about that in this online course. How to give choices, what appropriate choices there may be. And you want to give them choices just because you're a good parent. You want them to learn to make good decisions. You want them to have some of control over little things in their lives so that they feel confident. But that has nothing to do with that you're afraid they might throw a tantrum if you don't. Okay? If you offer them apple juice because that's what you have, they should not throw a tantrum because of it. All right? So again, that has nothing to do with tantrums. Keep off limits objects out of sight and out of reach. Oh, I completely disagree with that. Completely disagree with that. This makes struggles less likely. Obviously, this isn't always possible, especially outside of the home where the environment can't be controlled. No, no, no. I disagree with that. Let me tell you why. Because you're not going to manipulate the environment around the child, hoping that nothing will come into their environment which will cause a tantrum. No, they should behave no matter what's in their environment. And they need to learn to behave no matter what's in their environment. So you don't need to, in fear of a tantrum, start changing things around in their environment to make sure that they don't throw one. No, you need to teach them not to throw tantrums. I mean, that's what you need to do. Help kids learn new skills and succeed. Help kids to learn to do things. Praise them to help them feel proud of what they can do. Also, start with something simple before moving on to more challenging tasks. Again, good parenting advice. Nothing to do with tantrums. You should not worry about tantrums. So you should be teaching your child skills to take care of themselves anyway. This has nothing to do with tantrums. It shouldn't. It shouldn't have anything to do with it. Okay. Consider the request carefully when your child wants something. Is it outrageous? Maybe it isn't. Choose your battles. Okay. Well, here's the thing. In other words, what's that saying to parents is, if you're afraid they might throw a tantrum, you might want to let them do what they want. No, you shouldn't worry about that. That should not be a worry. And you know what? It doesn't have to be a worry because you can train them not to behave that way. And so, yeah, choose your battles. I think you choose your battles just because you want to have a good relationship with them, but not because you're afraid they're going to have a tantrum and you don't want to be oppressive in any way. So this just doesn't have anything to do with tantrums. It has to do with being a good parent. Okay, know your child's limits. Oh, this is an interesting one. If you know your toddler is tired, it's not the best time to go grocery shopping or try to squeeze in one more errand. Okay, this is interesting because that's true, again, because you're a good parent. Because you don't want to take your child out when they're overly tired, just like you wouldn't want to go out if you were overly tired. You don't want to go 6 or 8 hours without eating anything. And you don't want your child to go 6 or 8 hours without eating anything. But you know what? Sometimes they're going to be tired and tantrums aren't appropriate no matter what's going on. Okay. And sometimes they're going to be hungry and they're just going to have to wait, but they shouldn't throw a tantrum because of it. So in other words, again, it's manipulating the environment to make sure they don't throw a tantrum rather than just being a good parent and expecting them to behave. Okay. So that avoiding tantrums thing, and this was typical. This was typical. And what it is it's a mindset. And that's why establishing an effective parental mindset is going to be a free online mini course that you can take for free. And it's going to be coming up, like I said, in the next couple months. This mindset isn't appropriate. This mindset is be afraid your child might misbehave. And so manipulate everything around them to make sure they don't. No, that's not the right mindset. Okay. I don't agree with that. All right. So now what to do about it? What to do about the tantrum? Oh my. I'm somewhat speechless sometimes when I think about what this advice is. And the reason is because I really care about you. I care about you as a parent. I care about you and your child. And to think about it, there's a lot of parents who are seeking answers for what to do. And they get this answer and it's like a bad answer. And it makes me sad because it is common. I mean, it's like, okay, let me tell you, this is from parents.com. Okay. People that you'd think that's like the official place to find out what to do, right? Okay, here it is. Take deep breaths, acknowledge feelings, and be patient. Supporting your child through a tantrum often means being present, acknowledging their distress, but saying as little as possible because when they're in that state of upset, they can't hear you anyway. Acknowledge their feelings by telling them that you see that they are upset and that you understand why. Quote, you're really upset because you can't have the cookie. Then wait for the storm to subside. So, in other words, go ahead and coddle them in their misbehavior. Say, you know what? Give them an excuse in their mind. I am upset that I don't have that cookie. And so I can act like this I can behave like this in my frustration. And you know what? I'm going to let them know how upset I am about that. And then the parent is going, oh, it's okay. It's not okay. That is bad advice. That is bad advice. And that's from parenting.parents.com, I guess it was. Okay. And then here's some more from parents.com. If your child still won't calm down and you know the tantrum is just a ploy to get your attention, don't give in. Even if you have to walk through the supermarket dragging your screaming toddler, just ignore the tantrum. That is a hopeless thing to say to a parent. I'm just sorry. That is not good. It is easier said than done, but stick to your guns and eventually the duration will lessen and she will know you are serious and this is not going to work. Once your child realizes a temper tantrum isn't getting her anywhere, she'll stop screaming. So in other words, don't teach her not to scream. Don't teach her not to throw a tantrum. Let her go ahead and throw it until she's done. And then you as a parent get to go through this supermarket with a screaming toddler. Not only is that embarrassing and upsetting to you, the child is not happy. They're not happier when they get to behave that way. And you all know everyone in the store isn't happier, right? This makes nobody happy and it doesn't solve anything. It just causes a child to think, if I'm frustrated, I can behave in that way. It's not appropriate. It's bad advice. Okay, now this is from WebMD. Okay, another one that you would think would be like an expert in this field, right? If your child is upset to the point of being inconsolable or out of control, hold him tightly to calm him down. This was because they don't want him to be hurt. They don't want him to hurt himself. So hold him so he doesn't hurt himself. Tell him gently that you love him, that they're not going to give in to what he wants. If that doesn't work, remove him from the situation and put him in a timeout for a minute or two to give him time to calm down. The general guideline for the length of time out is 1 minute per age of child. We talked about that last time. Okay, so in other words, what this is saying is if your child is out of control and throwing a complete fit tantrum, hold them tightly and say you love them. No, that doesn't teach them not to behave that way. It doesn't. The idea that I'm trying to put into the minds of the parents listening is you teach them to behave properly. Okay? You don't coddle them. You don't distract them. You don't avoid anything like that. You just teach them to behave. Okay? All right. Tantrum tactics. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is from WebID. I didn't write that down at WebMD. Tantrums should be handled differently depending on why your child is upset. Sometimes you may need to provide comfort. No. If your child is tired or hungry, it's time for a nap or a snack. True, but not because they threw a tantrum, just because they're a good parent. Other times, it's best to ignore an outburst or distract your child with a new activity. Absolutely not. You do not distract a child. When they're behaving badly, you teach them to behave properly. That's what you do. You don't distract them, okay? Because distracting them doesn't solve the problem. Manipulating their environment does not solve the problem, okay? Teaching them how to behave solves the problem. And that's what I hope that you can do. And you know what? It gives you relief once they're trained to behave. And it gives them relief. That's what's awesome, okay? If a tantrum is happening to get attention from parents, one of the best ways to reduce this behavior is to ignore it. No. You don't want to ignore bad behavior. You want to teach them not to have it. If it happens after your child has refused something, stay calm and don't give a lot of explanations for why your child can't have what he wants. Move on to another activity. Okay, so here's the thing. The bottom line is what is being told on the internet from experts. Here's the bottom line. Manipulate the environment around a child instead of teaching them how to behave. Ignore bad behavior rather than teaching and training them to control their emotions. Distract them rather than teach them and train them to control their emotions and their behavior. So parents, you know what? You're going to have to put up with this. That's what they're telling you. You're going to have to put up with the bad behavior. You're going to have to put up with the tantrums, and they're going to grow out of it. That's what they're saying. Okay. I totally disagree with that. And I hope that by listening to me today, you recognize that it's not necessary for you to put up with it or your child to put up with it, because you know what? Your child is having to put up with it. They have to put up with it because they don't know any better. They don't know what to do to make themselves feel better. They don't. And so you have an opportunity to show them how and to train them so all of you can be happier. Okay, so I wanted to let you know that I have put a few videos online. Those are the best gifts for 1-year-olds, the best gifts for 2-year-olds, the best gifts for a baby shower, and the best gifts for a new mom. And I'll be putting other ones up eventually, but under my playlist on this channel, you can see those videos. So if you have a gift to buy for any of those categories at this point, I hope that you'll take advantage of that. And also, please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it if you would do that, and hit the like button if you have enjoyed the presentation today. I'm going to be doing this on Thursdays, and normally I'm going to do it at 10 o'clock rather than 9 o'clock. I appreciate you coming today, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And again, if you have any questions, please comment. So I will see you next time. Bye-bye.